So this is a quick tutorial on how to set up your gradebook. So this will go through the initial setup phase, and then I'll have another video on how to enter grades and those sorts of things. But when you go to your gradebook, or when you go to SIS, now we have a new option. And I'm going to do it for this calculus class on the bottom here because I haven't played with this one at all. So it'll show you what it looks like when you go to do it. You click on Gradebook, and this page comes up, and this is how your final averages is displayed, or how it's calculated. And this is the first thing that you have to do. You have to first set up how you're going to ultimately grade the student, what their on the final grade is for their course. So you will have each marking period, and if it's only a 20-week course, you'll have marking period 1 and 2, and then a final. So you can put in a midterm, you can put in a final. If it's a Regents class, there will be a line here for Regents exam. So each of those will be available. You could add something else if you have a big project at the end of the year that is a culminating project that you want to put in there. You can do that too. So you can add something. In order to show this as part of it, you have to actually uncheck this in order to put it in there. If you have it checked, it's actually removed. It's a little quirky thing that this program does. You're going to want to show what it's weighted at. So you can go over here, and I'm going to have it equal in my calculus class. My final is 1/5 of the grade. So I'm going to have it be weighted as much as the same as all the others, and you can see the percentages change. So now everything's 20%. If you want the final to be weighted differently, and I only want it to be a smaller percentage, I can go like that, and then it's only about 10%, and these are 20%. So however you want to do that, you can adjust that. Oops. You can adjust that. The other thing that you need to do in order to save this as your setup, if you don't have subcategories, here these have subcategories, and what that means is in marking period 1, I'm going to have subcategories, and those would be things like homework, quizzes and tests, class participation. Those would be categories, subcategories within that marking period. So if you don't have subcategories, the program won't let you save this unless you put a due date. So the due date can change, but just to start, I'm going to put it at the end of the year because it's the final exam, and so I just put a date in. You can change it later. And these percentages, if you decide later on that you want to change, I believe you can change those as well. So I'm going to save this, and then this brings me to my marking periods. And there's no grades in here because I haven't put any grades in yet, so you don't see anything. But if we look, here's marking period 1, and if I want to edit marking period 1, and I want to set this up, I click on the little pencil and paper on the side of it, and I'll see here are my subcategories. And so you saw I had subcategories on there. If I click on these, I'm going to have a category for homework, quizzes, I'll have something for class participation, and I'm not going to do a marking period exam. We can put a marking, no, I don't want to do that. So you can put a marking period exam in there, and I'll do that. So you'll see this marking period exam does not have subcategories, but these do have subcategories. And what these subcategories would be the individual assignments that you're going to assign to the student. So for quizzes, my first quiz on week 1, my week 1 quiz, that would be one of the subcategories. And so each of those things, the assignments themselves would be considered subcategories within each of these. Whereas my marking period exam is not going to have a subcategory because it's just one exam. And so I would have to put a date in there for that at the end of the 10 weeks, which I think is in November. And it shows you this is the end of the 10 weeks. It actually puts it on the calendar so you can't go over. This class participation, I talked to the developers the other day, and this should have subcategories. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to actually create class participation. And you should not have to do that. You should be able to, this class participation should be fixed. So what I want to do now is my max score, I want it to be out of 100 points, or 100%. And now I want to have the weight. And so let's say my end of marking period exam, I want that to be worth 10% of their overall marking period grade. This quizzes, I'll say 40%, because I'll put quizzes and tests. That's the way I do it in my class, but you can have tests separate and quizzes separate if you want. You can break it down as in any way you want. And then homework, I'll put 30% is homework and 20% as class participation. And if you look, here's because I'm doing this sort of out of 100, the weighting it out of 100, the percentages where it just keeps the same percentages. If you want them all to be equal, just put 10, you can put any number here really, 10, 10, 10, 10, and they would all be, it would be 25% because there's 4 different categories. So you can see what I mean here. If I do 25, 25, and 25, you can see how it's equal. So you can just go through that. So what did I say? 10, and then 40, 30, 20. So now that I have this set up, this will transfer over to each of the other marking periods. So once you do it once, it's sort of saved. You can adjust it each marking period if you want. So I can adjust it so I don't have a marking period exam, let's say, at the end of the second marking period or third marking period if I didn't like that. And then you always have to save it. You have to save what you're doing, and it'll warn you if you're trying to move away from that. So that's sort of the initial setup. And now whenever you come into your gradebook, so if I go back to my list of courses and I go to this calculus and I go to gradebook, this is what I see. I see my marking period 1 gradebook. I see my marking period end of marking period exam. That's just going to be one assignment. And so because it had no subcategories, I just can put at the end of the marking period what that grade was. Quizzes and tests, homeworks, class participation. So then if I go into each of these, I go and look, and I can see I don't have any assignments in here yet. I don't have any grades. To add assignments, I need to use this little pencil that's next to where it says quizzes and tests. So I click on where it says quizzes and tests, and I click on that, and this is where I can add this subcategories are really my assignments. So week 1 test quiz. And these you should not have to put into subcategories because you're not going to divide each of these assignments into multiple things. If you have a major project, let's say you're doing a project in government and you want to have quizzes and homework assignments that are all related to that one project, you could do subcategories. But I think you're drilling down a little bit too much for that. You can open this up and assign it. Here's my week 1. And I want to give it a weight. So I'm going to have all my quizzes be like 1/10, weighted out of 10. And my chapter test, like a big test, at the end of September, let's say I've got 4 weeks, I'm going to have that be worth, I may have that be worth 3 different tests. So I'm going to weight it out of 3. Here, my max score, actually, let me do this instead. Instead of doing the weights, I'm going to do a max score. In my class, I liked to do my maximum score out of 10 points for my quizzes, because then when I get to like a chapter test, if my chapter test, let's say, had 35 questions, then each question is basically weighted equally on quizzes and tests. The weight is equal to what the max score is. You don't have to do it that way. If you want to have all of your assignments weighted, or the maximum score out of 100%, you could do that, and then you would have to just adjust the weighting that way, because then everything would be weighted at 100%. So you can go through and week 2 quiz, I'm going to have that. I'm doing them a little out of order, so I apologize for that. But that's going to be out of 10, and when I go like that, it weights it, and then the weights change, and you can see how much those quizzes and tests affect their grade. So if at the end of the marking period you say, oh, that one quiz, they all bombed, and it didn't really, it wasn't really reflective of what I want them to see that they know, I can go in and say, oh, I only want that to be weighted at 5. And it will automatically change it. So it's a really nice way to see what's going on in your grades overall. I want to save that update. Now, it says 16 updates, but I only changed a few things here. What this does, the great part about this gradebook, is when I save those 16 updates, and I'll see here's in my quizzes and tests, I see my quiz, I can enter the grades here. This is for my first section of calculus, my period 1 calculus class. If I go to my classes and I go over here to my gradebook for my second section, you'll see when I go into quizzes and tests, there's those assignments. So it works really well because I only have to enter it once, and then all of my, if it's a similar class, then all of my grades, all my assignments are in that other class. And there are ways, and I'll show you, it's a little more advanced topic, but there are ways if like the second class didn't get to this second week assignment, the second week quiz, and you don't want to show that for them, you can eliminate it from their gradebook. So there's ways if that you don't want this to show up on their gradebook, you don't have to. So, but I'll show you that on another little tutorial. So the nice part about this gradebook that I like is that you don't have to enter the assignments in every time. And if I look at what the quizzes and tests are, this is my second section of this. Everything is the same. They're weighted the same maximum score, everything is the same. It just carries it over to that other group. The other nice part about this, if a kid switches in SIS from one class to another, his grades go with him. So you don't have to worry about the grade, your grade book changing, your class roster changing, those sorts of things. So those are a couple of the really nice features of this gradebook that once I started playing with it, I really, really liked. Let's say I want to go back to entering grades. To do that, you can see here's my final average. If I want to go to my final average to show what the kids are looking at, what the marking period average is, I could go right to there and then go back to my quizzes and tests to enter grades. If I want to, let's say everybody got 100, everybody but Susan got 100 on this test. I put a 9 in there. I could go down and enter all their grades. And to enter grades, you can look at your little cheat sheet that I gave you. But if you go here and I put in the grade and I put the down arrow, then I can enter grades as it goes, right? The other thing that you can do is if you click on the number 10 here and this little arrow, this will set for everybody that doesn't have a grade yet. So if they all got 100 and I want to put that in there, they all got 100. I go there, I confirm it, and their grade. Everybody that I didn't already enter, their grade comes up as 100. If I make a mistake, oh shoot, I shouldn't have done that. I leave this blank, I override existing scores, and I hit confirm, and it deletes them all. So there's a couple little tricks there that can help in terms of entering grades and the workflow. You can also, let's say everybody did it, got 100, except Mia. I want to go in here. She was absent, and I don't want to count this on her grade. I can exclude her from the grade, and then it does not count against her. So I can not count it against her. If you leave it blank, it automatically doesn't count against them. But this will give you an ability out sick and save it. So you can add comments to each of the assignments if you need, anybody that needs help. If the assignment's missing, you do have to go in here and click on missing and then hit save, so that when they go into their student portal and when the students come in, they see what they're missing, or in reports they can show what's missing. So that's just a real quick overview of how to set up your gradebook, how to create an assignment, and how to enter grades on the assignment and add some comments. In the next video, I'm going to go a little bit deeper into looking at how those different assignments work and how you can work within the gradebook a little bit more. But I didn't want the video to be too long. So tune in for the next video.